This morning on Media and Society, after children died in Enyobeni Tavern in the Eastern Cape, we ask if youth could possibly be exposed to too much alcohol in the media that they consume. And with further newspaper circulation reductions around the world, we ask, should newspapers just give up, or is there still space for them in the world of news production? Well, hello and welcome to Media and Society here on SABC News, independent and impartial. My name is Naledi Muleo. Now, this is where we look at the intersection between media and audiences. And of course, this show is not complete without your say. Connect with us via our social media channels and share your views and concerns about how the media works and what it is that we feed you. Hashtag SABC Media Society, or give us a call on the number 011-714-6841 or 011-714-6842. Well, South Africa is still in shock after 21 teenagers died at a drinking spot. That's the Enyobeni Tavern in the Eastern Cape 2 weeks ago. And questions are still being raised as to how underaged youth could have been sold alcohol. While on social media, we've seen videos of children with alcohol and some even consuming it on screen for all to see. We've also seen videos of parents drinking what seems like alcohol while their children are with them. TV storylines and even soapies and dramas would often feature a tavern or people with a glass of whiskey or wine at the end of a long day. It's something that we've gotten quite used to seeing in our country. So who can forget Georgie Zamdela's tavern in Isitingo or Mama Ruby's in the old generations? It seems that some of our stories are really centered around taverns, and some of these storylines continue until this day. In music videos as well, we've had popular songs that mention names of alcohol brands as some kind of aspiration, and even rap about the size of a bottle that one must drink. Songs like Ingotu, great song, but we all know this song. We went out to ask people if storylines do influence the lifestyle of young people. Let's take a look at what she had to say.
TV series, but I think they do because it's part of media, right? So I think media influences a lot of young people.
Yes, it really does, because things that is happening outside in today's life really has a huge impact on people's lives, because there's things that happens that they show on social media, and then like it happens in today's life. So it just teaches us like what is happening outside and what we need to be prepared for in the outside world.
Definitely, because I mean, soapies, the storylines driven from real life activities or events. So I believe they really direct or guide people in a certain way.
Young people are easily influenced by, should I say, wrong things, because so as soon as they see such on TV, they would want to like taste and get like an experience of whatever's been shown to them, because they're still young and aren't that.
Yeah, so we're going to just end those voxies right there, because a story that has grabbed our attention just this morning, as we discuss alcohol in our country, a shooting that has led to at least 14 people killed in Soweto. Faith Mazibugo giving us details on that shooting. Let's have a listen.
And it saddens us that anyone now who possesses a gun wants to try their gun on our communities, and wish to call upon communities to actually really indeed assist the police in bringing to book those perpetrators. If they have information of these many quantums, time and again, quantum. If some of those quantums really, our communities should actually assist in identifying some of them, whether are they quantums that normal is quantums that people seems to hire to go and commit crime. So wish to call upon our communities to actually assist. Premier and the Executive Council, they are indeed saddened, and we hope that those that are in hospital, they will speedily recover and be able to also assist the police in bringing those perpetrators to book. It can happen that because they were having fun, they were enjoying themselves, no one can actually had paid any attention to what is actually happening. We all know that this is where our people actually hang out. and especially now that there's also load shedding, at least and do all those things. So we wish to call upon all of us to remain calm and allow the police to do their work and hopefully be able to bring all those perpetrators to book. But they can't do that on their own. They do that with the work of the communities. When you keep on calling for community vigilance, this is what we call upon at this point in time. So let's help the police. Let's assist the police. If you have any information, do not hesitate to contact the police and be able to share with them. Remain anonymous. I'm sure you have their numbers. It's 08600 11 12 13. Be able to assist the police in bringing all those perpetrators to book. Indeed, we are all saddened. We have to wake up in the morning and come across such a sad incidences. There are fathers, there are mothers that have lost their loved ones. Others, it's fathers that are gone. Their children are now left on their own. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
MEC, offenses Venus from SABC News. The police minister considered that these taverns are central to a lot of violent crime that happens, especially in the townships. So why isn't police proactively policing these areas that are full of taverns to ensure that such violence is deterred?
As I indicated that the war on illegal establishments, that's what police and the minister we've been fighting for. And indeed, through the Operation Okai Mlao, quite a lot of them, they've been closed down. Now, this was a legal one. It was not necessarily an illegal establishment. Of course, it's true that that's where sometimes crime happens, but it's not one of those areas that are hotspots here in Gwanomzam. And how the incident happened, like I indicated, people were just hanging around. Ordinarily, how all of us and no one will seem to be vigilant to even see that something wrong might happen to them. And it is not as if they were contributing to crime. They were just hanging around, not doing anything. It's unfortunate that these ones came in their own car and started molesting all of them that were within that establishment. Kona is true, some of the illegal establishments are the ones that are contributing crime highly within our establishments. And I've indicated earlier that sometimes you find this is where our people hang out. We keep on talking about township economy, growing the economy. This is part and parcel of these establishments that also exist that make and assist our people to be able to increase the economy of our township. That is why they make sure that they actually comply. So ensuring that they comply is one matter that we've been sitting on. And most of them, they are actually complying.
We're hearing that there's also another incident that happened in Katlehong, Provincial Commissioner, where 6 people were shot, also at a tavern.
No, no. The incident that happened, it happened at Matoleville. Matoleville, they were not at the tavern. They were at the house sitting around the fire, enjoying themselves. There were 4, and one lunatic came and shot at them. He killed 3 instantly. One was taken to the hospital. Later on, we learned that that person also passed on. So it's a concern for us. Another incident of similar nature, it happened, I think, 2-3 years ago in Lenasia South, whereby people, they were inside the tavern, also enjoying themselves, and then these people, they just come unprovoked and shot at the people. So we are worried about the firearms which are in the hands of wrong people who just go and do the test firing of their firearms on people. It is a concern for us. Obviously, violent crime in Gauteng, it is a concern for all of us, and we are doing our level best to can deal with it. When this incident happened early hours of this morning, I was operating in Kagiso. We know Kagiso is one of the problematic areas in the West Rand. I was there with Operation Okai Mlao, and amongst the others, as we all know that the program of Okai Mlao, we also do the compliance inspection in the liquor outlet. And in Kagiso, we closed 4 unlicensed taverns there. We have confiscated liquor. The owners were also arrested. Unfortunately, while we are still operating that other side, General Marshal here was also busy with Operation Ukai Molao. Unfortunately, not in this area, but the area of El Dorado Park and also and Sophia Town. That's where he was operating. And unfortunately, it happened here. But we want to assure the citizens that we won't get tired, we won't get weary. We'll try our level best to can continue to do the best we can to ensure that our people, they are safe.
Commissioner, what is your reaction to the assertion that all these incidents are vindicating the HSRC's report, which said that the confidence in the police is at an all-time low ever since democracy came to South Africa? What is your reaction to that?
No, we have already acknowledged the report and its content, and we have also committed ourselves that we are going to implement the recommendation. We'll work day and night to can try and win the hearts and minds of our people. Obviously, in this day of democracy, we can't have the police service which is not accepted by its own community. You understand? It can't be us and them. We need to work tirelessly to ensure that we win the hearts and minds of our people. We work closely with them. There's a lot of intelligence which we can gather from the community. There's a lot of structures which are working with us. The law-abiding structures which are forever providing credible information for us to can try to deal with criminality in here.
Provincial Commissioner, there is a statement that was sent out by Sergeant Mal, where he basically says it's alleged that 4 unknown black males entered into one tavern with a firearm, fired shots to the direction of a snooker where there was a person playing snooker. They ordered people to lay on the floor and demanded firearm. Do we officially have firearm issues in South Africa?
Yes. Yes, we do have a problem of proliferation of firearm, no doubt about it. You know, based on the level of violent crime we are having, especially here in Gauteng, we know the trio crimes are a problem here. The CITs are the problem in Gauteng. Robbery business, house robberies, and just random murders. It is a concern. You know, Gauteng, we were not featuring high in terms of the murders previously. We knew that it's KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape. But now we are showing our ugly head. To be counted as one of the provinces where we are having the murder rate, which is very much high. It is a concern for us. The issue of guns in the wrong hands, it is of concern for us, and we call upon our good citizens, our communities, let us continue to work together, identify those who are in possession of these firearms, and then we remove them in the wrong hands. And all our law enforcement agencies in this province, integrated as they are, we have also given them the marching orders that, you know what, if we want to defeat this violent crime which is happening in our province, we need to work tirelessly to remove the firearm in the wrong hands.
Thank you, colleague. Thank you. Yeah, the provincial commission. Thank you.
Yep. Well, there you have it. That press briefing coming out of Soweto, and of course that there is, let me see, Faith Masbuko essentially speaking to us about the shooting that took place at a tavern in Orlando. It's a Nomzamo Tavern, where the story is 14 people were killed from a shooting that is still being investigated by police. The latest to come out of it as well is that the victims are between the ages of 19 and 35. So young people, similar to the lives we saw lost at Enyobeni. Be part of the conversation on media and society. We're going to actually unpack what we've seen come out of Soweto in those news. And also, as we continue the discussion on Enyobeni, are young South Africans exposed to alcohol too much, especially in the media that they consume? The number to call is 011-714-6841 or 6842. On Twitter, use the hashtag SABC Media Society. Well, to talk about whether the media media impacts on the levels of alcohol consumption, especially with young people. We're joined by Bongi Ndaba, who is a TV writer, director and producer. And from the Southern African Policy Alliance, we're joined by Maurice Smithers. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you. Before we even get into the discussion that we were going to have, and we are going to have, is media and its role in showing so much alcohol to young people. Your thoughts, Maurice, on what we've seen come out of Soweto just this morning?
Well, you know, one of the things we've been saying over the past 2 weeks is that the Enyobeni Tavern issue has obviously been a very, very big issue in the minds of everyone in the country. But we just need to be reminded that the only reason why it became such a big issue was because of the number of people who died and also because of the age of the people who died. But the reality is people are dying in taverns every single weekend. You know, and this has been shown time and again. I mean, Khayelitsha has had terrible incidents of continual mass shootings, similar to the one that's just happened in Soweto. We saw during COVID the number of trauma incidents to hospitals was dramatically reduced, particularly on the weekends, because alcohol was more controlled. So it's quite clear that the problem that we have is much, much bigger than in Enyobeni, and we need to realize that and deal with it.
Yeah. Bongi, you've worked for so many different productions. I mean, you have an illustrious career as a writer, and I wonder sometimes if we have created a narrative, even in the media that we consume, that alcohol is such a big part of our lives, right? I make the example of Georgie Zamdela's Tavern on Isidingo. We have so many stories of our own that target particularly young township markets where our storylines are centered around taverns. Have you found that to be true?
I will not deny it. It is very true because we are standing between reality and fiction. So we gotta have to find the balance of not promoting things that we shouldn't promote, especially to young people. And our shows are mostly watched by family. So it is a conversation that has to be done also with the people who give the money to the writing of those stories, like the channels, because the focus has become like, what are the ARs? We have to grow our viewership. And growing the viewership, you have to do the things that you mirror the society to be. But there has to be a part of responsibility, which is always a conversation in the writing rooms, that how do we find the balance? And I think we have to take the ownership that we haven't found that balance of between fiction and reality, because we do impact on people. People watch dramas and soapies on TV. We really have to find that balance. But I would put it mostly on the people who run those shows, the channels. They should take that responsibility, because we are told this is what the youth is doing. You have to write about that, because otherwise people will not watch. And look what is influencing to the youth right now.
Yeah, I wonder though, I mean, if it really is just the decision of the channels themselves and the decision makers, I mean, as creatives as well, is there some sense of accountability that we say we haven't actually tried to write stories that are differently aspirational to young people?
Oh, we have tried. We do try. And you do get feedback to say nobody watched that story because it was a good story. You know, they want the stories that are a bit wild, a bit, shocking and all that stuff. And it is not right. You know, this is a fight, like I say, we keep having all the time. And when you have those discussions, it becomes about the numbers. Which story did people like? It's the one that you say in the taverns in our shows. It's the one that you say that involves violence. But as a society, should we be accepting that? We shouldn't. Yes, creatives have to do it and have to put responsibility into it. And that is what we try every day to put out there. And also, we need the help of also the people who are watching, that you should know when it's fictional and reality, because we are in the world of fictional, and we are in a world where we have to entertain people.
Yeah. Have we normalized a drinking culture? I mean, you were responding to what we heard from MEC earlier as she gave us that briefing. You as you were listening, Maurice said, well, some of what she's saying is normalizing drinking culture in our society.
Yeah, because she was saying, we know that this is where our people normally hang out. And she went on to say that in a slightly different way as well. And I do think that that is the problem that we have in our society is it has become normalized. So that, well, in advertising itself, particularly, the way in which alcohol is presented in our society is that it's aspirational, it's part of having a good time, it's part of projecting yourself in a particular kind of way. And children do get to see these things. I mean, I think that this issue that you were discussing about soapies and so on, I remember Soul City did a series, I think in about 2010, 2011, where they in fact ran a story that was based in a tavern. It was about a tavern, a family in a tavern, and a family a bit down the road, and the issues between these two families, almost like a Romeo and Juliet kind of story that was happening. But they were trying to use that in a way to focus on the challenges about alcohol. I think the challenge in these other shows is maybe that isn't an issue, and mustn't forget branding. You know, one of the problems is that if you see a scene in a tavern, and if there's like a Carling Black Label on the table, Carling Black Label is probably helping to fund the TV show. That's how it works. That's how, you know, if you see, you know, like if you see an Apple computer on a desk, you'll know Apple is actually helping, giving some funding. It's called place branding.
Right, yeah.
So that kind of thing is happening as well. So we really do need to realize the consequences, because if you think about Enyobeni, how is it that a 13 or a 15-year-old child who's now going to celebrate Pens Down, what brought those kids to think that
that's
the
how
way
you
they must go and celebrate is go to a tavern? So, you know, that's the question we have to ask. You can't blame the kids, you can't blame the parents, you can't blame the community even. You've got to say, what are the drivers? What would make those kids think that that's the thing to do? And then you've got to look at advertising. You've got to look at adult modeling, the way in which parents, not that parents shouldn't drink. I had a whole debate on a radio station yesterday about whether you should drink in front of your kids. You know, you can't have a blanket rule that says you cannot drink in front of your kids ever. But you have to consider that the way in which you are drinking and how much you are drinking is going to have an impact. There's peer pressure on kids. You know, and the peer pressure itself is coming from the advertising.
Yeah.
So if we don't address those things, you know, the president spoke the other day at the funeral, and he said, maybe we must have a national debate about raising the age of drinking from 18 to 21. And so we've been answering questions on that as well. And our answer is, sure, you must. And there are a lot of good health and social reasons why you must. But just changing the age of drinking is going to change nothing. Because if a kid right now, when there's an age limit of 18, is going drinking, why would they not drink when the age limit is 21?
Yeah, so let's do this. I want to take a short break, and then we'll expand it a little bit. And when we come back, perhaps we'll ask the more controversial question, right? And that is there targeted marketing according to racial lines of alcohol? Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, you're still watching Media and Society with myself, Naledi Mulo. We're still in conversation with Bongi Ndaba and Maurice Smithers. And we're talking a little bit about how media impacts alcohol consumption in South Africa, particularly how the messaging is then translated to young South Africans. Give us a call on 011-714-6841 or 011-714-6842. Sipo's on the line in Innerdale. Sipo, good morning to you. Sipo, okay, we've lost Sipo, but you can give us a call as well, 011-714-6841, to comment on whether or not you think the media influences how young South Africans are drinking. Before we went to the break, I asked what some might think is a controversial question, but perhaps we need to face things quite directly, right? Do we have targeted messaging according to racial lines? I made the example with my producers and said, Sia van der Laan is centered around a coffee shop, Rhythm City is centered around a tavern. Is it time that we have that discussion?
Oh, definitely. It's like, why do our shows always have to have alcohol? Because that puts it on the black people, because mostly those shows that you've mentioned, they are racially very clear what they are targeting. Why don't we just all have coffee shops? Yes, we do need to have stories about alcohol, but they have to be done in a much more responsible way. Not that it just becomes about that. And it's not only alcohol, it's alcohol and violence, where it is encouraged that we must display violence. And yes, we have to talk about GBV and all the other stuff, but do we have to display it every time when people are living with it in their society? That's the question I always ask. Yes, it happens in our societies, but do we have to display it all the time on TV? Does it have to be entertainment? Because in our lives, it is not entertainment. Alcohol, especially for young people, it is not entertainment. We see it in our lives, in our real lives, in our homes. We don't need to be seeing it all the time on television. But let's just be honest about it. TV is about making money. So if the viewers want to watch that, that's what the bosses are gonna go with. Because it is about making money. And that is the unfortunate part, is that where do we draw the line and say, let's take responsibility and not be all about the numbers and the money? That is the most important question when it comes to TV writing, is that everything is fueled about numbers and getting the money. Because if you do the opposite, you have less numbers and you don't have the money. And that is where we are today. And that is the truth. Because as writers, we can write anything. I don't have to be writing about violence and alcohol every day. There's other stories that have nothing to do with that, just family stories. But are we given the platform to do those stories? Not at all.
So essentially what you're saying is broadcasters need to have a moral responsibility that outweighs their profits. I mean, that's a very powerful thing, and I wonder if they're listening.
Broadcasters and funders. It doesn't have to be. And like you say, and it's slanted to a certain race. And that's the very sad thing for me, because it's always slanted to the black race. And why is that?
Yeah, we brought this up earlier before we went on air, Maurice, about advertising. And you were saying that there's more alcohol billboards in townships than you see in other parts of our urban spaces.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you won't see billboards, the proliferation of billboards that you see in townships, which are they're everywhere. They're in residential areas. They're on main roads. Excuse me. You hardly see those in the historically white areas, in the suburbs, and that has an impact. I mean, and if you talk about kids again, kids are walking to school. They're going in taxis to schools. There might be a billboard. In fact, one of the recommendations in the Liquor Amendment Bill is that you don't have billboards within 100 meters of a school. Now, the fact that they're putting that into the bill means that currently there are billboards within 100 meters of a school, and so kids are constantly bombarded with this information. And I think we need to bear in mind that when alcohol advertising is done, it's very cleverly, they're very good, the alcohol industry, in working out who they want to target, who they want to reach. So, for example, black women in South Africa are not actually big drinkers. And so a lot of the marketing would be geared towards black women in particular.
To try and get them to drink some more.
To try and get them to drink, yeah. I mean, look, it's all about increasing the numbers. In Europe, they've actually kind of reached a point where many countries, 60 to 70% of the population drink. Also with problems, but not quite the same level of problems that we might have. South Africa, only about a third of people aged 15 and above drink. And we've seen a number of articles from the liquor industry.
That's quite small. I didn't expect it to be that small.
Well, that's the problem. You see, it's very interesting because that's the way in which it's projected, including through the TV shows, is that everybody is drinking. What the MEC said this is where our people hang out. Well, that's not true, because 2/3 of our people, age 15 and above, don't hang out there. And you're talking about, people who do it for religious reasons. The whole ZCC community, the Muslim community, don't drink. But the problem is that the alcohol industry, which is now this huge global industry run by about 5 or 6 major liquor giants that have got footprints in every country of the world. You know that SAB is not even owned by South Africa anymore. It's owned by a Belgian company. They have said publicly, our markets in Europe and in North America have plateaued. Our growth market is Africa and Asia. They've said it.
That's frightening.
Yeah.
What you're saying is very concerning. Let's get some calls though. 011-714-6841 to be part of our discussion. Are we fueling alcohol as aspirational in the media, particularly targeting young South Africans? I've got Vitro on the line from City Deep. Vitro, please switch off your TV or put the volume down on your television. Good morning to you. Thanks for calling. Vitro, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts?
I'm very well, thanks.
Yes, what are your thoughts on the discussion, Vitro?
So I think the media has a very huge impact on the alcohol consumption when it comes to kids. Because, when they advertise their ads, they use those key characters that our kids look up to. And when you walk around, all the billboards have alcohol. The media is saturated with alcohol. As a kid who is viewing all of that, you tend to think that all of that is cool, you know.
Yeah, Vitro, thank you so much for calling in. 011-714-6841. I think as well about music in this country. Back in the 90s, we had Lomshuni Yakuluma. I'm sure you remember that. And back then, we giggle about it because it's a fond memory. But it was a memory that in the early 90s said, well, the place to be is in the tavern. And that hasn't gone away. Yeah. It's gotten glossier. It's gone into our hip-hop. It's gone into our music videos. And a lot of our musicians are making money from these alcohol brands, Bongi.
Yes, and they represent the brands. And if it's represented by a person who's a celebrity that the young people idolize, why wouldn't they think this is the lifestyle? They're not going to be thinking of the age. Yes, they put the line over 18 or whatever, but a child is not looking at that line. A child is looking at their idol, and they're idolizing that person. In advertising, even in our stories, we have to be careful about who is doing the drinking stories, because the younger it becomes, that's what young people are looking at. They're not looking at, oh, you said the age is this. They don't even look at those numbers. Our shows always says PG, whatever, but people don't look at those numbers.
No,
they just watch the show. There's very few people who look at the number and say, don't watch this show because you are too young. People just watch the shows. And sometimes parents are not even there. So that is the thing, the responsibility is what is it that we give out to the people as the media.
Yeah. What happened to the discussion around the banning of alcohol? Where is that? It's been a discussion for so long, Maurice.
Well, are you talking about banning of alcohol? Or
banning of alcohol advertising. Apologies, yeah.
Very good point. And I think it's very important to raise that question, because the other thing the president said the other day was that we need to learn from what happened around tobacco. And the big thing that happened around tobacco in 1999 was they banned tobacco advertising. And that has had a profound impact. People are still smoking, but it had a profound impact on the way in which we see the issue of tobacco. And the most important thing, and for me this is always the most critical point to make, is it shifted the balance of power between smokers and non-smokers. That legislation, because what it did was it said to smokers, you have to respect other people. And I think that's the big challenge we have around alcohol. Somebody was saying to us yesterday that in interviews that they've heard on the TV that people in communities are saying they're getting bullied by tavern owners. Because when they try and complain about problems in the community, they just don't get listened to. And if you're sitting around a table with some friends and talking, people actually eventually bully you into drinking because there is this idea that if you're not drinking, there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
So alcohol advertising, it's absolutely crucial that we ban it. In 2013, the Minister of Health, then Aaron Motsoaledi, put forward a bill, the Control of Marketing of Alcohol Beverages Bill, which would have banned not only advertising but also sponsorships, the kind of sports, cultural, etc. sponsorships. But the problem is that it never even got released for public debate because of conflict between different cabinet members. And last year, Fikile Mbalula said something really interesting. He currently, as the Minister of Transport, says that alcohol advertising should be banned. But he admitted that in 2013, when he was Minister of Sport, he opposed the banning of alcohol advertising. So we need a whole of government approach. We need the political will to say this has got to be done as part of a bigger package, because again, not just banning advertising is not going to do it on its own. But it has to be done.
Well, the reason why I raised that it's been a long discussion is because you're going all the way back to 2013, and I think we can go even further than that to discuss how long the country's been talking about the ban of alcohol. And perhaps what we need to be addressing is those power dynamics and how the issue perhaps is that the alcohol industry is so powerful and has legal might to take some of these issues to court. But let's take more calls. Ndumiso's on the line in Krugersdorp. Ndumiso, good morning. Ndumiso?
I'm going to comment on the matter of a youth in an alcohol. My argument is this one. We all know that there is an alcohol that is involved within our youth. But now my question is this. We all know that our ancestors have been drinking an alcohol. But now, the youth that we do have now at this stage, they are abusing an alcohol. And then we know as well that we are not supposed to be drinking under the age of 18 years. But now, why does the youth of today has to go on into drinking at the age of 14 years? That's where we are getting to the situation of the incident that has happened in Cape Town.
In the Eastern Cape.
We are going back to the incident that has just happened in Soweto.
Right.
And therefore, how do we get to blame the alcohol because of the misbehavior of the youth that we are raising?
Okay. Yeah, Ndumiso, I mean, it's quite interesting to say, how do we blame alcohol when it's the behavior of young people? But young people are quite impressionable. There's a video that's circulating on social media of a little boy, and I really wanted to play it on screen, but it would be irresponsible of us to show an underage boy doing this. But there's a video that's gone viral on social media of a little boy who says, "Uko kupumile," right? Granny is not in the house. And he cracks open a beer. And this is on camera. And he says, "Awuzwage," and he takes a sip. And it's being circulated everywhere. In fact, to the point where every Friday, when people knock off adults, they post that video up and say, well, the weekend is here. And that's the video that represents our weekend. So it's very, very concerning where we are. Just quickly, I touched on the issue of the power of alcohol brands and why we still haven't had the discussion around advertising of the banning of alcohol, of the banning of advertising of alcohol.
Well, I think, as I said, there was this control of alcohol, of marketing of alcohol beverages bill of 2013, which should have gone through but didn't. And part of the reason was the reaction from the industry. And it's very important to talk about the power of the industry. In 2010, Cabinet took a decision, driven by the Department of Social Development, took a decision to say that no government departments in all spheres of government should in fact partner with the liquor industry. Because if you enter into a partnership with the liquor industry on anything, with the liquor industry funding a program and around alcohol abuse and so on, if you do that, you actually compromise your ability as a government
to regulate.
Right. And that is something that unfortunately is actually not being honored today. So you have a whole range of departments for expedient reasons, maybe because they haven't got the money or because it's easier, that they are actually handing over this responsibility to the industry.
That's very concerning.
And so that power balance is wrong, and government needs to step in. It's their job.
Very concerning. Bongi, before I let you go, I see that you're essentially, and for a very long time, have been driving the storyline that we give to South Africans. What's the message to broadcasters today and to writers as well? The responsibility perhaps that you take forward now after we've seen Enyobeni and now 14 lives lost in Soweto?
Basically, I would say let's stop being lazy, because for me, I find it's laziness to rely on doing the violence and the alcohol instead of telling stories. There are stories beyond that, and that could entertain our people. I think it has become a crutch, and I would say to the broadcasters, just allow that, because people consume and like what you give them. It's not the people who are going to tell you what you must give them. They will consume what you give them. You give them that violence and those alcohol things, that's what they will consume. That's what I would say. Let's stop being lazy and just do the stories that are really needed in our society.
And respect the responsibility that we have as broadcasters. Bongi, thank you so much for your time. Bongi Ndaba, TV writer, director, and producer extraordinaire, and also from the Southern African Policy Alliance, as Maurice Smithers. An absolute pleasure having you guys in studio. Let's take a short break. More on the other side of this. Welcome back to Media and Society. So we look now at the future of print in South Africa and of course across the world. So there have been reports across the world of a massive decline in the print world. Leven Mhlari went to the streets to ask South Africans if newspapers are still relevant in this day and age, and we'll unpack that discussion a little bit more on the other side of this. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Bought a newspaper yesterday, so I like reading newspapers. I'm somebody who likes reading newspapers. I find it very important because most of the news are find them in the newspaper.
I do everything online, so the last time I bought one was maybe 3 years ago, maybe. I get the Roodepoort record. I get that on a weekly basis, but I don't even page through it.
I never actually bought a newspaper. My uncle buys newspaper, and the last time I saw him buy a newspaper was maybe 3 years ago. And I don't think newspapers are still relevant in this time and age because of the fourth industrial revolution and the news technologies.
No, because we have social media networks where we get most of the information. I think the only relevance in newspaper, classified parts of it. And then that's that. Nakona, not really.
The last time I bought a newspaper, it was last month. Yes. I buy them because it increased my ability of reading and increased my vocab, keeps me updated with what's happening in our country.
I last bought a newspaper, I think it was 2020, I was doing matric. I don't think they're relevant anymore. Like, only a few people read newspapers. What's new now, what's in, is using the internet to get the news, because you can Google anything. So what's the point of having newspapers?
We have social media, you see everything through your phone. So it's just a fingertip away.
Well, let's have that discussion. In fact, if we look at some of the numbers here at home, the circulation of the Daily Sun, which is a very popular newspaper, in fact, one of the most popular we had for a very long time, the circulation is down 89%. The Star circulation has dropped 81%. That's according to the Audit Bureau of Circulation, saying that the circulation of newspapers in the country is dropping. But joining us to really talk about this downward trend in newspaper circulation is Heather Robertson, the editor of Daily Maverick 168. And we also are joined in studio by Dr. Pranola Govardhan, who is a postdoctoral research fellow at the Johannesburg Institute for the Advanced Study at University of Johannesburg. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Naledi. Thanks
Heather,
for having me.
Good morning to you as well. So let me start with you, Dr. Govardhan. Do you agree that we are starting to see a decline in the circulation of newspapers? Is it because of social media? And is there a way that we can bring it back?
Well, I mean, okay, so let's unpack these statistics you mentioned from the Audit Bureau of Circulation. And I think it's important for us to contextualize the print media market in post-apartheid South Africa. Traditionally, what it looked like before the rise of online newspapers in the last 10 years. So traditionally in South Africa, we have the big four newspapers, so that's the Mail and Guardian Group, Times Media, which was recently bought by Arena Holdings, we have the Independent Group, and what's actually happened, if you look at those statistics closer, is that these newspapers and these companies are they are losing revenue because the supply chain has been affected. Printing costs have gone down. However, you'll notice that readers have actually migrated. So you need to look closer at these statistics. So I don't think newspapers are dead. Yes, circulation has dropped, but traditional readership has gone online.
Yeah, let me bring you in, Heather. Heather's the editor of Daily Maverick. Heather, I've seen Daily Maverick do some very innovative things in really wanting to keep us holding on to our print newspapers. Are you feeling that decline? Let's talk about what your numbers are looking like and the sort of innovation that you guys have then taken up.
Okay, so we launched our newspaper in the middle of the pandemic, when all newspapers were obviously in decline because we were, people couldn't get out of their houses. There were the lockdowns, and also the spread of the spread of the virus. But we still took a chance, and at Daily Maverick we believe that people are totally needing to have a lean back weekend experience or week experience where they can actually switch off from their screens, because there is also oversaturation and information overload from screens. So we took the brave step of launching. Very interesting. We also decided through our research that yes, newspapers were declining, but a lot of the reason for the decline have been newspapers shooting own goals, and in particular losing the trust of readers, and in particular, the letting go of more senior, more trusted, more experienced journalists, in particular investigative journalists or feature writers, in-depth journalists. So there were a lot of layoffs. If you look at the various research papers into the state of the newsroom that University of Witwatersrand done, you'd seen that there's been a lot of layoffs in newspapers as advertising revenue declined. So we came, in terms of a mainstream, well, we're not really mainstream because we're definitely disruptors coming in from the outside, because we are largely an online news outfit. So we came in and said, like, you know what, we're here to serve readers of South Africa, and we need to actually share our journalism, which is a high quality, highly researched. We invest in journalism more than anything else, and we need to actually provide a platform for those people who don't want to be stuck on their screens and read one or two stories that are breaking, but actually want to get a comprehensive, curated experience. And we did do that, and we did that for an entire year. We gave out the Daily Maverick 168 for free at Pick and Pay outlets. We had a relationship with Pick and Pay, and that did a lot of things. So when we kicked off, we got our online readers to vote as to whether they would go and pick up a newspaper. We received over 23,000 votes, and those votes dictated which Pick and Pay stores we selected to actually launch the newspaper. Further down the line, we launched a pilot issue. And what we did, and this is interesting, what we're doing with our newspaper is, you hear it in a lot of digital news sites, and we use the principles of design thinking. We are listening to our readers, we listen to our audience, and we iterate.
Right.
So we did a pilot issue.
Yeah.
We sent 10 stores in Joburg, 10 stores in Cape Town. And then we listened to our readers. We did surveys to say, like, what did they like, what didn't they like?
Yeah.
And then we tweaked. I work, so just think of our model. All our journalists are online first. They work for online. They are very experienced. I mean,
right.
This year we won the Sikavile Story of the Year award with our story. We with Peter Louis Maverick,
right.
And he won the investigator. So we've got the quality, and we've got the quality journalists. So the newspaper team is a production team. It's a team of amazing designers and sub-editors
right.
who repurpose the amazing content we have online, and I curate and package it so that people get a broad experience. It's not just the investigative stories. It's also, if you see, we do, like, we help our readers decide, like, hey, what did you do during the week? What's the fun things to go out?
Yeah, no, I've seen, and I've seen.
Food show.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it there because I'm running out of time here. But thank you so much for giving us the examples of how to survive these tough times for newspapers. Dr. Govenden, I'm almost out of time, and I'm so disappointed. But what we've seen as well is the decline in newspapers, even at community level. You know, I'm from Alexandra, and I remember growing up, they had at least 3 newspapers in the community. Those are dying as well. My broadband has called it the death of newspapers. What do we need to do to revive them, particularly in the most vulnerable communities?
I think what we do need to focus on now, because we are in the digital age, and no matter what we say, a lot of the viewers here that Levin had interviewed said in their views, newspapers are dead and they're going online. So I think we do need to focus on online newspapers and growing that demographic. And currently, as we stand, we're having this discussion about the drop of circulation, and it is because we've lost readership to online. However, 40% of South Africans do not have access to internet. So we're having a discussion, and the digital population in South Africa consists of 60%. So I think government has indicated at the beginning of this year, the Minister of Communication, that there are moves to get every single household 10 gigabytes of data in 3 years, and they're drawing from the universal access of basic and essential services of water, electricity and data. But as you know, we have not in South Africa gotten water and electricity rights.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to focus on getting all South Africans online and online newspapers, because everybody is going online.
Listen, that infrastructure investment is going to take a very long time for us to get there. I wish we had more time, and I really hope we can bring you back next time, perhaps from the comfort of your home, and continue this discussion. Because I certainly miss, seeing people on a Sunday morning with their newspapers out. It was a beautiful sight. But let's leave it there. Thank you so much to Dr. Prinola Govenden, who is a postdoctoral research fellow at the Johannesburg Institute for Advanced Study at the University of Johannesburg. And thank you as well to Heather Robertson, the editor of Daily Maverick 168. So a little bit earlier, we had a discussion around how the media impacts on the consumption of alcohol in the country. A statement that's just come out now that I need to read to you from the National Liquor Traders Association that says, the National Liquor Traders Association has learned with sadness of another loss of lives at a tavern in Orlando. We call on police to investigate fully the circumstances that led to this tragedy. The apparent targeting of the Nomzamo Tavern in Orlando is of grave concern, and the perpetrators must be brought to book swiftly to prevent any further investigations. I'm sure that Chris Eldon Lewis will have more on that story on the other side of this. Thank you so much for watching our show, Media and Society. We hope you'll join us again, same time, same place next week. From me and the rest of the team, have yourselves a blessed Sunday.